Hey, welcome back to another edition of Everyday Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson, a.k.a. Uncle Tex, a.k.a. Professor Tex. It would be Big Tex Comment Corner. I really didn't have a show planned on to do today, but even though I normally do things on Wednesday, I decided to do something today based upon a comment I got. So this is going to be Big Tex comment section and whatnot. And this is kind of a based upon the show that I did last week about the whole Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady thing, and the first 3 years and all this other kind of stuff, right? And I got a comment. I may say the guy's name later or whatever, but right now I'm just keep it that. I said, let me do this for you because a little statement that was kind of made that stats is, stop listening to stats is garbage and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, to an extent, I know what he's talking about. However, that's an interesting thing to say that stats are garbage. Okay, that stats are garbage when you lead and tell me within 2002 Tom Brady led the league in 28 touchdowns. Let's do this real quick. What are stats? The practice and science of compiling and collecting numbers, more or less analyzing data, right? This is what it's done. When you go to the whole aspect of sports, it's competition. In competition, when you're in competition with one another, you collect stats, especially, like I said, in the confines of sports. Now, let's go to the workforce. Let's go to the workforce, okay? Let's do that. Employee A comes to work on time every day, goes up and above the call of duty, asks them to work overtime, they work overtime, right? Dresses neat, nice, sharp, and everything like that, does whatever needs to be done, pleasant to talk to, whole nine, all around great guy. If you stack up all his hours and whatnot and you get a certain amount of hours, there's no injuries, there's no nothing going on, that person probably gets a thermos or he either gets a $25 or $50 gift card based on what company that you work for because of all the hours that he's worked with no incidents of anything. Then you have employee B. Comes in, barely makes it to work on time, doesn't want to work any overtime, barely does his job. Some days he's good, some days he's not, and whatnot. Calls out from time to time, comes in late from time to time, barely makes it by the skin of his teeth and work time to time. Never been up for anything, constantly kind of messing up, always got to clean up a mess behind him or whatever like that. But because you need him, because you really have nobody else to get the job, you're stuck with this guy. This guy, you tell him, okay, you don't come in, I'm going to write you up. You don't come in again, I'm going to give you a warning. Next time, I'm going to write you up. Third time, you're out of here. Or whatever. Heard what I said that time? Because everybody's been on these types of jobs. Third time I write you up. That's a number. That's a stat. It's a stat that's going to hold against him to get him terminated. So if he ever tries to sit up there and be like, I'm going to lawsuit on you guys, they have a stat sheet on this cat, and it's going to be numbers involved in there, just like a stat sheet with the other guy. So don't tell me stats don't matter. Don't tell me stats don't matter to a Tom Brady. Tom Brady is probably one of the most competitive guys ever to play in any sport. Now he has the all shucks, laid back Cali style. But if you've heard him mic'd up before and seen him on the sideline before, don't let that fool you, right? I've never seen Tom Brady as most athletic. Never seen him as a guy with a cannon arm. I've said several times on this broadcast, I've probably picked 10, 12 other quarterbacks from him. What I like about Brady, what makes Brady sets him apart from himself, and I call him, my nickname for him is the brain, is his competitiveness and willing to do whatever it takes to win. And takes his skills, what he has, which a bunch of other quarterbacks have way more, but he uses them to his ability. And within the confines of the game that he plays, he does his job. Goes back to what Bill Belichick say: do your job. His job is to make sure he hits those receivers where they're supposed to be at. And the leadership ability that he has, them guys will do anything for him. Now let's get this straight. Don't tell me a quarterback that can throw for 4,000 yards and about 28, 29 to 30 some odd touchdowns a year to about 8 or 9 picks, maybe 10 picks, let's say 8 or 9 picks and whatnot. That quarterback pretty much, probably about 85% of the time, not 85, probably 85 to 88% of the time, he's gonna be 11 or 20 win year quarterback. That's pretty much what Brady's done for the most part. Don't tell me stats don't matter. Don't tell me stats don't matter. Okay? Stats matter. You could say they don't matter. They matter to him. Here's another stat. If Brady or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with this stupid thing, quarterback versus quarterback, which is the dumbest thing ever. Here you got Brady probably has the ability somewhere along the line to possibly win seventh Super Bowl ring, right? Unprecedented in the Super Bowl era, right? And whatnot. He'll tell, I'm not playing for stats. I'm not playing for Pro Bowl. He's still playing for a number. That number is 7. That's what he's playing for. It's the tie. It's to do that. Now, if we want to get technical, and I will, well, Otto Graham has 7. So he technically have to win 8. But people say, well, that was the AAFC. See, that didn't matter. If it's in the Hall of Fame, it matters. If it's in the stat line, it matters. It has to matter. Matter of fact, how many championships did Bart Starr win before they started calling it? Before they started actually calling it the Super Bowl before 1967. You know, if we want to get technical about it. I've seen like, take for instance, Bart Starr is a 5-time NFL championship. That was the at all be all. That was the Super Bowl in that time and era. He won 5. And then when it came to Super Bowl, he won 2. Wouldn't that be 7? I thought that would probably be 7, but I could possibly be wrong. I could be wrong, but from what I said, that's 7. Okay, if we break it down like that, because people say, well, we're talking about the Super Bowl era, but it still counts. It still counts. Okay, if we ever get to a point of XFL starts playing against the NFL, and then they end up merging and turn something into Uber Eats Bowl, and some kid 80 years from now messes around and breaks and wins, let's say eight Uber Eats Bowls, or 7 Uber Eats Bowls, or whatever, and he does that. Does that make him comparable to Tom Brady? Because Tom Brady says now the Super Bowl stuff don't matter now. How do you rank that? Again, don't tell me about stats, because stats does matter. Whether you want to adhere to it or not, they do matter. They do matter, and these guys play for stats. Let's keep it in New England. Let's keep it in Boston, right? How many championships did Bill Russell win? Was it like 11 or 12 or something ridiculous? 11, 12, 10, 11 championships and whatnot. But yet, the only championship that anybody ever seems to talk about is what Jordan did. And the only reason why they talk about what Jordan did, because he did 6. Why did Jordan hold up 6? Why did he hold up 6? Because he had passed Magic. But nobody's talking about when Bill Russell and them and his guys that are the Hall of Famers on those Boston teams, that some of them wasn't there for all 11, but they was there for 5 and 6 of them. They're not held up in the esteem. Let's go someplace else. Let's go to, I say this oftentimes, before his career was all over said and done with, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won 6 championships. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was doing what Jordan was doing at the center position 20 some odd years before Duke came on the scene. Damn near. Yeah. Right at 15 years, right at it. But he's not looked upon the same light. But when Jordan said, and so you got these guys, yeah, we're going to get 6 like Jordan. Nobody says I want to get 6 like Kareem. Nobody wants to say I want to get 11 or 12 like Russell. So don't tell me stats don't matter, because it's a number. It's history being recorded. There is no stats. If it's competition, there's stats, homeboy. It's going to always be that. So my point about when I was making about what Tony Romo said, which was a stupid comment, the only reason why I did that, it wasn't to show who was better and who wasn't better. It wasn't about that. It was about saying that if he does not win, he will never be able to catch Tom Brady. And I'm like, that's the stupid being said, because he's saying like, well, if he don't win, I just compared the first 3 years, and I'm saying he's on his way. You even had to admit that he's on his way. And you can say barely all you want. He's ahead of him at this particular point in time in the first 3 years of their career. It's not even close. You would say it's close because of the wins. It's 34-12 as opposed to 38-8. And if you do remember at that particular time, if you want to, in the first 3 years or so, I, think that Brady may have played a few more games. I'm not sure, but Mahomes did miss a couple so games. But that's not neither here nor there. As far as the completions and attempts, and the guy's thrown for 100 touchdowns already in 3 years of starting. Brady was at like 64. I'm not going to. I've already did it last broadcast. Don't tell me stats don't matter. Don't tell me that guy don't go out there for stats. Get out of here with that mess. If you are a player in that game, you play to not. It's not about you rack up. Not saying the stats are the most important thing per se, because I want to beat this guy because of this over here. You know that if I perform at my highest peak and do this particular type of work, that honor these stats, that gives my team a better chance to win. That's what it's about, my man. It ain't got nothing to do about who's this, who's that, or whatever. I know for a fact. There's like as anybody competitive, you played the sport or anything like that, any sport. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. So Brady is going for a stat. He's going for number 7. He's going for number 7. And the scary part about the thing about Patrick Mahomes is that if it wasn't for that damn D Ford, he might be playing for his third Lombardi trophy. But that's neither here nor there. So now he's trying to play for his second one in as many years. And just his third year starting. And that's something that's a stat to be ecstatic about. You follow what I'm saying? So it's not trying to compare because the kid is just starting. Brady's on the downside of his career and doing a hell of a feat. You know what I'm saying? It's not so. Don't tell me that stats don't mean anything, because they do. Numbers always mean something. And since you want to talk about eras, you know as well as I know that if this was the 70s and 80s, Brady is not playing till he's 43 years old. You can't intimidate quarterbacks no more. You can't knock the snot out of them no more. You can't tell. I remember Deacon Jones said a few years ago before he did it, who would you like to play against? He said, I'd like to kill that goddamn Tom Brady. Or something to that effect. He said, I'd kill him. You see, you can't talk to guys like that no more. You can't. And Brady is in a point in time when he plays now where it's like, you can't mutilate wide receivers. You can't do all that stuff. So a guy can play. And you can hurt your team by, even if you do it, then you're hurting them with a 15-yard penalty and possibly getting yourself fined and tossed out of the game. Different era. You play what you play at. So I don't want to hear anything about the stat era. It was 1 year back in that year, was it 2011, when about 4 or 5 damn quarterbacks threw for 5,000 yards. I remember Matthew Stafford threw for 5,000 some odd yards and 30 or 40 touchdowns. It was still sitting at home. But when Dan Marino did it in 1985, that meant something. And it took Drew Brees 48 more attempts to get to where Dan Marino was to pass that 5,000-yard ball. Now everybody and their grandmama can throw for 5,000 yards. It is what it is. It's nothing you can do about it. You're born the time that you're born. Don't you ever sit up there and fool yourself to think that stats don't mean anything. These guys play for stats. Even though if you want to sit up there and try to make it, it's just that I want to win that Lombardi trophy. It's still a number. How many? I got more than you. That's a stat, my man. That's for you, Sean Sanders. And my man, what's my man's name? He also made a comment. Also made a particular comment here earlier. Ephraim, I believe, just to kind of let him know that with Tom Brady, Brady came in the league in 2000. He didn't come in 1996. He was still messing around in Michigan. He was still in Michigan. As a matter of fact, I think it was just Emmy coming out of high school at that particular time and whatnot. And, so, Brady, magnificent quarterback, top quarterback of the first 100 years in his league. No questions about that, based upon what he's done and his accomplishments and everything like that. But football is the ultimate team game. And they want to talk crap about Belichick, what he did is they did. Hey, man, if Brady still wanted to be in New England, he'd be in New England. If Brady didn't stay his ass in New England for one reason only. They wasn't that good last year. And everybody knows it. And he knew coming back again, they wasn't going to have anything. So if Brady was all about staying in New England and being a trooper, he got more money than God and the whole 9 yards. If he wanted to play for the love game, he got his ass out there because he can go to NFC. NFC is weak now. But Tampa has some talent over there. That's why he went over there. Otherwise, he could have stayed his ass right there in New England. He could have stayed right there. But he wasn't going to stay in New England because there's no talent there. Cam found that shit out. And whoever goes over there now, it's like done. All right? There's a little something from my man Shawnee T there, And I tell you guys all the time, there's no greatest of all time. There's no GOAT as long as time's still going on. And as I say, numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. We'll be back.